The Libra full moon is officially upon us. Thank you all for tuning in with me today as we dive into this full moon lunation chart and all the important aspects that are occurring within this 2-week umbrella period. I'm Catherine Urban. I'm an astrologer with over 16 years of astrological immersion, study, and practice. And I'm going to be taking everything I know during these uncertain times to help you walk with more clarity and confidence and to feel as aligned as possible in these times. So let's pull up that chart and let's get into it. The Libra full moon ripens on April 12th, 2025. This is occurring at 8:22 p.m. Eastern Time, so please adjust for your time zone. The Libra lunation is going to highlight themes of justice, relationships, fairness, equality, and also where things are unfair, unequal, or where we feel like things could make more sense. Libra is a sign that is represented by the scales. It strives to create balance and it strives to create harmony. So on a personal level, we may be looking at things in our life that are out of whack. And sometimes something I tell my clients a lot is sometimes the pendulum swings one way and inevitably it's going to swing the other way. And so things don't have to always be even keeled when it comes to Libra, but it's like if you have a day of activity or a week of activity, maybe you need the following week to be one that's more restful and restorative, for example. So we're looking at where balance is needed in our own life and what's missing to make things more harmonious or fair. We've had Venus retrograde for a long time now, or it feels like it at least. And so these topics are already top of our mind, especially in our relationships. Libra, I see this show up a lot with politics and world events and what's going on in the world in terms of social trends, political trends. So where we feel like there needs to be more order, where things are out of order, where things are out of whack. Libra is a sign of civility. It's a sign of let's weigh everything out and find out a solution that works for most people. So we're going to be seeing a lot of these law and order and justice themes come up over the next couple of weeks. Libra can be the veneer. Libra coined the sayings, dress for success or fake it till you make it. And there is some truth to those things, like being able to curate a vibe, being able to cultivate an experience, for example, or to set the scene. There's something very ritualistic about the sign of Libra where if you create the atmosphere, it's going to be easier for you to tap into that experience. So these themes can become really important for us under this lunation, how to create the essence of what we want to align with. Now, taking a look at this chart in particular, the sun is conjunct Eris. Eris is the original riot girl, and not in like a fun way oftentimes. Eris is willing to throw the rotten fruit at the rulers. I'm watching The Man in the Iron Mask right now, actually. I have small children, if you didn't know, and it's impossible for me to sit and through an entire movie. It usually takes me a couple nights. So I'm in the middle of that one, and they are throwing rotten fruit at the king and the king's representatives saying, like, we can't eat this. This is not going to work for us. So Eris actually threw the apple of discord, which led to the entire Trojan War. And so we've seen Eris a lot. I've been studying Eris. I've been keeping up with her. I'm a big fan. And Eris often shows up when there is mass outrage against injustice or representation, where there isn't enough representation, or where the level of oppression has reached a unsustainable, not that it's ever sustainable, threshold. So Eris is unafraid to get messy, okay? We're done being peaceful about it. So I would suspect that because this is a Libra lunation, we often see politics and things like that arise during Libra lunations. And Eris here, like I'm expecting the protests. There was a big hands-off protest that was across many different cities across the United States. And I wonder if things are only going to escalate here as well as in other countries as well, obviously. Another important figure is conjunct the sun in this lunation chart, and that is Chiron. So that's going to show up definitely on more. I always find Chiron showing up personally. I mean, not that it couldn't show up collectively. Chiron always has to do with healing. It has to do with mentorship and finding guides, finding people who are way showers through difficult times or through a healing process. Chiron represents wisdom and teachings. So maybe that means something significant or personal to you at this time. But I always find that, especially with Chiron and Aries, that there's a lot of emphasis on your story. We are all, especially in Aries, the protagonist of our own hero's journey. And every hero in their own journey, in their own story, has ups and downs and stories of overcoming. That's really what defines the hero. One of the things, according to Joseph Campbell, is like there's always that moment where the hero falls and has to transform, has to face oneself and to rise again. And we note that the hero is flawed. The hero is not perfect. But that makes us root for them all the more. And something RuPaul always says, like, we need to know your story. We need you to let us in so that we can fall in love with you. So I want us, under this lunation, to have so much compassion for the you, the version of you that is striving, overcoming, winning in your own way. Oh, got to turn off my phone notifications. So this is a time where your story, your wound, your trip ups may be kind of arising more so in your psyche. And I want you to have utmost compassion for you because this is just part of your story. This is part of how you become wise. And this is how we become wise collectively. There's so much more I could say on that without going on a little soapbox, but I just think that, you know, we as individuals are having our own experience in each lifetime. We have our own trials and tribulations. We have our own challenges that we're each faced with. And the same is true for nations. You know, astrologers study charts of nations. And there's something perhaps important about this moment of reconciling and growing here. Something I've been thinking a lot about, especially as we've had the nodes recently moving through Aries and Libra. We've had eclipses happening there. We've been having a Venus retrograde in Aries. Hello. Something I've been thinking a lot about is how healing does not occur from brushing things under the rug and faking it till you make it. Okay, so sometimes that works with Libra, sometimes that can work, but true healing can only happen when you confront. And that is maybe what this aspect is asking us to do, because this lunation, the full moon in Libra, is ruled by Venus in Pisces. Venus has an ideal. Venus has a vision here of a higher love, an enchanting experience. Venus says we can overcome anything. Saturn, though, is saying, but we also have to face the music. We also have to face things. And, you know, for some of us, there's been a little bit of a tendency to avoid right now. And doing that Libra thing where we just kind of avoid it. And I want to be at peace. I want to be at peace. But true peace can only happen when we confront the very thing that's making us check out, the very thing that's making us avoid, the very thing that we are uncomfortable to be around. And so there's something about the nature of healing that is very important for this lunation. On the other side, Aries, where we have a lot of emphasis here, both from Eris and Chiron, is having the courage to face it, having the courage to confront it, having the courage to have the brave conversation. Again, Mercury is going to enter Aries. That's going to happen on April 15th and 16th. So if there's something that needs to be said, if there's something that feels unfinished, if there's something that you've been avoiding, Mercury in Aries is going to be excellent for those truthful talks, those big reveals, being forthcoming. Mercury in Aries is great for realness. It's great for rallying, hyping people up, getting excited about things, building excitement for other people with you. But it's really about getting to the truth, cutting straight for it. And we've been doing a lot of this Aries stuff. We have, and maybe we're not finished with it all. But this full moon is in Libra. So it is saying that we have to come back to harmony. Harmony must be the goal. And even if that's inner harmony, think about what is needed right now. Do you need more of that external, things are in balance, we're getting along after a period of things being tumultuous? Or have I been sort of hiding behind the veneer for so long that I still have more work to do over here in Aries for the true healing to take place? So think about where you're at on this side of the spectrum, because with Venus kind of going back and forth between Aries and Pisces, we've been talking about that a lot on here. Sometimes you have to speak your truth, even if you're afraid of how the other person might retain that or digest that or respond to it. Sometimes you really have to say exactly what you feel. In fact, true intimacy is created from conflict. And I have a really cool person that I follow on Instagram. Her name is Kadi Bo. And I'll never forget this slide that she posted about how social media has really distorted our perception of what a good relationship should look like, and how following a recent era of empowerment around having high standards in relationships, how that is important, and it was important what we all went through in the last 10 years. But it's also creating sort of a false illusion that our standards should be so high that people should check every box and never offend us ever. And she was describing how, relationships, the strongest relationships really grow through conflict. And obviously being in conflict all the time isn't healthy, but it's moving through conflict that true growth and strength in the relationship really takes place. So I'm thinking a lot about that, especially with Venus conjunct Saturn for the month. And we're going to be working with this energy for a long time, because not only does this lunation, is it ruled by Venus and Saturn, but the following one, the new moon in Taurus, is also going to be ruled by Venus still hanging out with Saturn. So we're going to be working with this for a long time. I've talked a lot about it, but just to kind of recap here, especially because we're under the Libra full moon, that this is an aspect that invites us to problem solve in our relationships. It's Venus Saturn, it highlights all the things that aren't working, the things that are unsustainable, the things that we can't brush under the rug and ignore anymore. It says, we've got to face it. We've got to come up with some solutions. Maybe we have to accept that some of this perfect Venus and Pisces enchantment vision isn't, all those things aren't going to be met. Maybe I have to accept some of that I am human and the people I'm in relationship with are human. We all fall short sometimes. And Venus and Pisces may say, I can still love you anyway. At the same time, Saturn may hold up the mirror and say, this is not going to work. And we make it, either way, we make a decision. We make a decision to accept. We make a decision to move away and move forward in either case. This is all about effort and thinking about long term. What's going to serve us the most long term? What are our long term dreams and goals? Something I always encourage people to think about with Venus Saturn is, what are the new dreams? Sometimes you're in the relationship and you are living the dream that you've had for many years, but now what's next? What's the next vision? What's the goal? Is there a summer goal? Is there a 5-year goal? Is there a 10-year goal? What is it? Sometimes getting connected on that can also bring you closer together. At the same time, I think that Venus is also bringing some softness and ease to the obstacle that Saturn has represented for us in the Pisces sector of our chart. So think back to March of 2023, Saturn entered Pisces, and think about where Pisces is in your natal chart and what that Saturnian obstacle has represented. Venus is moisture. She's going to help slide that rock, that big immovable weight of Saturn, and kind of slide it along. We're going to find a way forward. We're going to find a way along. Saturn isn't going away, but there's something, whether it's a perspective or a shift, that's going to make that experience a little bit more manageable. We still have on and off about 10 more months of Saturn and Pisces left. So we're not done, but this could be a very important moment, especially with them on the North Node. So let's talk about that for a second, because on April 13th and 14th, Saturn is going to make an exact alignment with the North Node. And it's been there. We've felt it. But it got me really thinking about how whatever is on the North Node tremendously increases. And Saturn represents control. Saturn represents authoritarianism. It represents, control, authority, constriction, limitation. And we're seeing a lot of that right now as we get into a global trade war that's going on. And Venus on the North Node, not only is it saying things about our relationships, but it is increasing the cost of goods. Venus representing things that we enjoy. Venus representing food and drink, clothing, jewelry. I mean, arguably driving up the price of Mars things too, like metals and Mercury things, electronics, so it's really everything. But in particular, our quality of life, how we enjoy things, our sense of what's accessible to us, what's within reach, the things that maximize our enjoyment and our sense of comfort in life, Venus, is experiencing a constriction. And it's happening in a very big way on the North Node. So again, we're going to be working with this, not just for these next 2 weeks, but for the following 2 weeks. And then the story will likely take a turn of some kind. This is important because on the 13th and 14th, Saturn and the North Node is actually going to reach an eclipse degree there. So that North Node is going to energize the eclipse degree from September 25th, 2024. So we're going to see a re-energizing of that. So let's animate our chart a little bit here. So we're going to click forward to the 15th. And just so I can show it here, I'm going to go to the 16th. I already mentioned what Mercury in Aries is going to represent. I think this is going to be an easier Mercury to work with than we've had in a while. I know a lot of people who are plugged into astrology, they want to hold off on making important purchases or major decisions. Some of us couldn't do that this last Mercury. Some of us had to make important decisions because of the incoming tariffs and everything like that. My hope was that all of this tariff talk was going to walk itself back after Mercury retrograde, but I fear that we're in too deep at this point. Regardless, Mercury in Aries is going to be a much better Mercury to work with than we've had in a while. It's to the point, it's efficient. The only thing is that Mercury is going to meet up with Neptune. And this is the first time we've had a planet conjoin Neptune since Neptune moved into Aries on March 30th. So I would recommend paying attention to the headlines, what's going on in the news, what are the stories that we're hearing, because Mercury, as they say, is holding a microphone to Neptune. So we're really going to get a chance to hear from this transit firsthand on this day. So something I've experienced and observed with Mercury conjunct Neptune is feeling more tired, feeling more sleepy, spacey, uncertain, just the need to check out for a minute. But that might show up a little differently in Aries. I'm thinking about how Neptune blurs lines and how it's difficult to discern what the truth is or what's really happening or whether we have the full scope or not. So I'm thinking like in Aries, there might be something kind of shocking, something hard to believe. This is going to be on the 16th here and the 17th. There could be, again, that temptation to space out. But what I would recommend is to, whatever's going on, stop, take a breath, wait a minute before you respond, because you may not have all the facts. You may not have everything you need to respond accurately. This can, for those of us who are creative or have a spiritual practice, this is really wonderful for intentionally disconnecting, intentionally connecting with nature, your third eye, whatever it may be, your dreams. So if that's you, intentionally tap out, because you can get a lot of soulful reassurance that way. And I think that is a currency that we all need right now, because as things feel uncertain, we're really tempted to do this Virgo thing. Again, we've had the eclipses going on in Virgo Pisces now, of researching, planning, anticipating, getting ahead of the curve, doing something. And that is all important. We should keep our finger on the pulse. We should know what's going on. And at the same time, it's so discombobulating at times that it's so important to create space for the things that nourish us on a soul level and help us feel connected to something bigger than us. Sometimes people get that connection through activism, showing up, acts of service, but some people need to connect directly to that source, their higher vantage point. So if that's you, this is an invitation around the 16th. So moving forward, there's a lot happening in this 2 week, folks. So moving forward, something very exciting, something we're all looking forward to, sort of, is that Mars is going to be moving into Leo. My calendar shows it happening on the 18th. For some folks in different time zones, it's going to be happening on the 17th of April. But Mars moves back into Leo, and we are thrilled to see Mars out of Cancer. It's been a long go. This is going to energize us a bit. Mars in Cancer has been more restorative, restful, protective, concealing our energy, protecting our peace, retreating, okay, defensive. But Mars in Leo is valiant. Mars in Leo wants to puff our chest out, fluff our feathers up, and make a scene in a good way, usually. It's Mars in Leo is competitive, it's fierce, it's upright, it's haughty. It wants to be loved, it wants to be noticed. We're motivated by affection, we're motivated by a win. That's what Mars in Leo wants. I learned from Alomi, Dr. Alomi, one of my teachers, that Mars in Leo often shows up as a tyrant making a bid for power. So let's see what happens here. This is when people, again, puff their chest and they're like, I want a slice of that. I want to be the top dog. So let's pay attention to that, see how that happens. But I think for us on an individual level, this is going to be great. This is going to be great. This is going to give us a little bit more heat, a little bit more fire, just what we need to warm ourselves coming out of the dampness of Cancer. And we've been in there for a long time. So this is the time to pick up your tool, whether that is your pen, your sword, your spatula, whatever it may be, and show the world what you're made of. Now, we're going to spend the next week building to the third opposition with Pluto. So I'm just going to animate us forward to the 26th of April. Mars is still not moving super fast. And here you have it, the third opposition of Mars and Pluto. We saw our first in early November, right around the 5th of November. And then we saw the second opposition, Mars was retrograde, in early January, right around January 3rd, I believe. So this is the third. This is like almost the end of the Mars retrograde story. Mars still has a few degrees to go to clear its shadow, but this Mars-Pluto thing is the main event. So think about if those dates are significant for you at all. What was going on for you? And let's talk about what Mars-Pluto represents. Mars-Pluto is an eruption. Think about Mars being an irritation, like a blister waiting to pop. And Pluto, it's deep-rooted. So it's like magma, white-hot magma rage coming to the surface. This is a meltdown. This is highly reactive, highly volatile. Astrologers often observe there being like distinctive stories of like violence around this, things that are horrifying. And I hate to report this, really, I do. I wish that I could just have good news to report all the time. But this is the reality of what this aspect often highlights. And with Pluto, there's often something that makes us question callousness, or how someone could be so hurt, or how people could be so cruel, or what happened to bring this to reality. And Pluto is the thing. Pluto is the current that draws us in to horror films, or looking at what's happening as the cars are stopped on the side of the road. Like Pluto's like, I want to know, I want to go deeper. What is it? Pluto wants us to connect with darkness in a rage, in a way. And it does represent a primal rage here. So sometimes that primal rage is justified. It's in a response to an unjust world. Remember, we're under this full moon in Libra. But sometimes it's just pent up and it just got there somehow. I always recommend for people on this aspect to sweat, to find outlets, and to find healthy outlets for that aggression. Something that you can do with Mars-Pluto is it's the Herculean power to move a mountain. So this isn't always negative. In fact, it can be really healing. So coming back to how this lunation conjoins Chiron, this could be a necessary release of rage. How rage and the expression of rage can be purifying. It really can. And I think about that a lot in connection with a woman's cycle, like how PMS really brings it out, but then you're renewed. Like I was contemplating snake goddesses today, guys. So I'm just thinking about the symbolism of snakes and how they can shed their skin and to be reborn, and how that snake symbolism was often associated with female empowerment thousands of years ago. And so anyhow, how the eruption of something that's toxic, the eruption of something that cannot be held in any longer because it's become poisonous or it's become stagnant, how that can be really, really healthy. Okay, so sometimes we have to release. So this is an aspect that's saying find your release valve. Even though it's a Libra full moon and you might be trying to carry on, there's something here that's saying, let it go, let it out and let it go. Or it could come out in a way that's really messy. So that's the other thing that I'm really suggesting here is find a controlled outlet. Call your therapist, call your best friend, whatever it may be. Now, this is occurring along the Leo Aquarius axis, and many people note that this is an axis of the leader and the people. And I would say more specifically, Aquarius represents outsiders. So people who are disenfranchised, people who are not reaping the rewards and the benefits of the decorated, the elite, the worshipped. So it's not just leadership. I mean, we could put celebrities up here in Leo if we're looking at it like that. So this is like the have-nots. It's very interesting here. It's like a let them eat cake kind of aspect here. So moving along, you'll note that the sun has also sort of engaged these planets. So as we build our way up to the Mars-Pluto on the 26th, we also see the sun reaching a square with Mars-Pluto. And that happens over the course of a couple of days. That begins, let's say, on the 20th with the square to Mars. And then on the 22nd with the square to Pluto. So big leadership themes here. So I think there's going to be an eruption, a public fallout maybe, in terms of people who are loyal to the leader, for example, or something emerges, something erupts that we all find out and go, ooh. So yeah, this is not faring well for leadership in any way. So fingers crossed, at least on my end. Some other things that are going on here. The sun enters Taurus. Okay, I'm a little ahead of myself here on the animation, but if we go back to the 19th, this is the day that the sun enters Taurus. So Taurus season is upon us. So more Venus energy. Taurus season is a time of being present, noticing the beauty in your surroundings, focusing on what's sustainable, finding an even pace. For Taurus season, rest is just as important as persistence, and loyalty is huge. And it's all about enjoyment. We got to enjoy our life. Sun in Taurus. We want to just savor the moment sometimes. So moving forward, a few Venus things to share as we come out of the Mars-Pluto current. On the 20th and 21st, Venus is going to exactly align with the North Node. She's been hanging out there for a while, but this is going to increase Venus things. So we talked about price increases with Venus on the North Node, fantasy increasing, the willing to go the lengths for someone, the willing to do whatever it takes for someone on the North Node. What we're willing to do for our ideals, what we're willing to do for love. So this is max Venus here, but she does have Saturn to contend with. Another thing that's going on, you won't be able to see it in this chart, but I'll go to the day anyways, is on the 24th, Venus reaches her maximum brightness as a morning star. So if you're up early like I am, those of you who wake up early for work or if your kids wake you up, do go out and try to take a look at Venus. Venus is the brightest object in the sky, other than the sun and the moon, obviously, and so, so beautiful. You can see why she is the goddess of love and beauty. So do go and take a peek if you can. You should be able to see Saturn nearby. So there you have it. That is the Libra full moon. And the 2 weeks following, it is a very eventful period. It seems like there's a lot to love about it. There's a lot to face, and there's a lot to release during this time. I hope that you found this report as supportive as I did. I mean, I find going through and preparing and understanding what's going on very supportive. That's why I'm here. And thank you all for joining me in my new space. It is coming together right on time for Libra season. So thank you for your patience with me as I moved and transitioned over here. But we're back to regular programming now. But I am probably going to keep this format, at least until I change my mind. Anyways, thank you all for being here, and I'll catch you next time. Bye. Thanks so much for tuning in with me today. For more astrology in your world, you can connect with me on all platforms at Astro Catherine. You can also find me at catherineurban.com, where you can book your year ahead astrological consultation. We'll zero in on your natal chart, your secondary progressions, your perfections, your solar return, and we've even got the monthly breakdowns and transits, of course. You can also connect with me for horary astrology, which is a divinational form of astrology, which allows you to ask one specific question by email. We also have electional services, rectification services, and I also have a whole slew of webinars available for download. I look forward to connecting with you soon. Thank you. Bye.